Whenever you travel to Normandy, there are all kinds of different, I guess, landmark locations that really stand out in the history of the Overlord operations. Places like the Dog Green sector of Omaha Beach, or Pegasus Bridge, or Point du Hoc, and also places like this spot where I am standing at right now. This is Dead Man's Corner, right here in Normandy, and it is now the site to the Dead Man's Corner Museum and a fairly new state-of-the-art museum called the D-Day Experience. Well, right now, I am on the road between Saint-Côme-du-Mont and Carentan, and this is the infamous Dead Man's Corner. Now, the reason that this place got the name Dead Man's Corner is on June 7th, tanks were arriving as reinforcements for the 101st Airborne Division, and the lead tank, which was a Stuart D-12, was destroyed right in front of this house. The tank remained there for quite a few days. And there was a dead commander that was hanging from the turret, and it became kind of a landmark here. So they ended up calling this Dead Man's Corner. And in addition to the landmark nature, with this Stuart sitting out in front of this house, well, this place right here also became very important. This served as a forward operating post and hospital or aid station for the 6th Fallschirmjäger Division of the German Army. Alright, so we are entering into the Dead Man's Corner Museum right now, and as I mentioned, this is where the 6th Fallschirmjäger had their command post set up. So their commander, a guy by the name of Major van der Heid, would have been finalizing a lot of his battle plans right here, and they have really an impressive looking diorama here. That is impressive, especially given the fact that, to my understanding, everything in here is original. No reproductions. This home also served as an aid station for the 6th Fallschirmjäger. So here you can see this really impressive diorama set up with all of these wounded German paratroopers. And again, you're not looking at any reproductions in here. Everything that you see in this room, as far as clothing and gear and everything like that, is original to the time period. And oh my goodness, I am really liking that helmet. Okay, so I've moved into a different section of the museum, and I can tell that we're just on another level here. I am seeing all kinds of things that I've legitimately not seen in any other museum. And the way that they interpret stuff here is really impressive. Alright, so you know that I'm into relics. Everybody loves relics. Here are some different German helmets. Oh, there is one with chicken wire on it. That is one that I would really want. I've been looking for a really legit chicken wire helmet to add to my collection. Again, this was a Fallschirmjäger command post, so they have some Fallschirmjäger helmets in here. As well as a couple funeral cards in there. So here we are looking at a few more German helmets, except for the ones that I'm looking at right now look to have been dinged up just a little bit. You can see that we've got some bullet holes in these helmets here. Ooh, and a P-38. Never pass up an opportunity to film a gun. All right, now I know that we have a whole lot more museum to look at, but I am legitimately having problems just getting out of this room right here. This place is insane. And knowing that it's all like original period artifacts and gear is really impressive. And I like this kind of stuff because the more you learn about the gear and the weapons and things like that, it's like little pieces of history that are coming together to help you understand the overall picture. Now, there weren't just Germans here in this home using it as a command post or an aid station. There's a pretty crazy story about an American paratrooper who ended up right here. So this is Raymond Geddes. He's a 101st Airborne guy who dropped into Normandy on D-Day. And here are a few of his items. You can see his wallet and his jump wings and his patch and paybook and things like that. And Geddes' connection with this building is that he was wounded right behind it on June the 8th. There was a piece of shrapnel that went right into his eye. And here you can see a few more of his items. There's his uniform. So he has this piece of shrapnel that has flown into his eye and has partially blinded him. Well, he's wandering around. He looks at this building. It's a Fallschirmjäger aid station. So there was a white flag with a red cross on it. So just doing the best he could, he wandered in here to seek treatment, not knowing what this building was. He would have been wearing this helmet at the time and wanders right into a German aid station. Now, you would have expected the worst to happen to Ray Geddes, but the doctors here ended up taking him in and treating him. Now, Americans ended up overrunning this position, and Geddes ended up not being a POW. He wasn't killed. The doctor that treated him, though, was taken prisoner, and this is his hat. Geddes ended up taking it with him. Here is his Purple Heart, and also his dog tags. And oh, dang, that is actually the piece of shrapnel that they dug out of his eye. Holy smokes. Also, oh, now this is really cool. This is the watch that Geddes had on D-Day, and it broke whenever he hit the ground. So that time stopped at the exact time whenever he landed in Normandy. And then they have a few other items here as well. But yeah, very, very interesting story. Okay, walking out of the Dead Man's Corner house right now and heading to a different complex here, same complex, different building, called the D-Day Experience. If you've not been in here, it's been hyped up. I've been told it's good. If it's a fraction as good as what I just saw, I've got a feeling we're going to see some cool things. All right, well, we just got into the museum, and whenever you come in, there's like a briefing that has a video portion, a hologram that we couldn't film. And then you come in here, and dang, this is a legit C-47. Not only that, this is a C-47 that was used in the series Band of Brothers. This was Meehan's plane in episode 2. Now, to add to it, it's not just a static display. This is a fully immersive experience. So we can't film on the immersive part of this experience. But yeah, this is impressive. Okay. Well, here is the deal. This place is next level. That's all I'm going to say. This place is next level. And we're now walking out back into the museum portion. And they have just a ton of artifacts. Like, I'm not going to be able to hit it all. There's no way, zero chance. So I'm going to hit the high points of this museum, some of the things that really just jump out at me, and yeah, hopefully people will find it as interesting as I do. But I know you will. This place is awesome. Okay, now, again, you can look and see that there's just way too much for me to cover here in one episode. This is the jacket and shirt that belonged to Forrest Guth. So he was one of the Easy Company guys that you might be familiar with from the series Band of Brothers. And if you're not familiar with him, well, maybe you would be familiar with the guy who owned this jacket. This is the uniform jacket of Major Dick Winters. Well, here's another good one. This is the uniform jacket of Colonel Robert Strayer. So Strayer was the lieutenant colonel who commanded the 2nd Battalion of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment. Now, a lot of times we focus on the paratroopers and kind of forget about the guys who brought them over. So here are some of the items that belong to a few of the pilots who piloted the C-47s that brought the paratroopers across the English Channel. And one artifact that I wanted to point out is right here. So this belonged to a guy named First Lieutenant Harold Knopp. He was with the 309th Troop Carrier Squadron, 315th Troop Carrier Group, and he got hit with some flak whenever they got over France, and a piece of it flew through the cabin and hit that pocket knife. So I have to imagine that didn't feel very good, but it busted up his pocket knife and saved his life. I love trophy flags and flags that have been signed by different service members. This is one that has kind of an interesting story behind it. It was given to a pilot by the name of Lieutenant Robert Boots by a little French girl as a gift, and then he took it back to England, where 42 members of the 90th Squadron signed it for him. That is really neat. There's a scene in Saving Private Ryan where Captain Miller and his crew come up upon a crashed glider, and they tell the story about a general who died in that crash. Well, that was based on a real story. The real general who died in that glider crash was a guy by the name of Brigadier General Don Pratt. And if I can get this right, this is the loading manifest from that particular glider, and it has his name on it and also the first lieutenant. And then over here is a map case from Lieutenant Lee May, who is also on that glider. And what really gets me on this one, they have pieces from the glider crash right here in the museum. Wow. Okay, so here is kind of a model of what one of these gliders would have looked like. So you can see, in some of them they didn't just carry troops, but could also carry equipment and vehicles like this Jeep. And then up here is where the glider would have been piloted. Now, whenever Pratt's glider went down and he died, he became the very first American general to be killed in the Battle of Normandy. We've talked about Lieutenant Thomas Meehan in a couple of different episodes of History Traveler. As a matter of fact, in the very first video, we visited his grave on the 75th anniversary of D-Day. And then on a previous Normandy trip, we went to the memorial. We also went and visited the actual crash site on one of the American Artifact videos. Well, this right here is a collection of some of the debris and some of the gear that was recovered from the crash site. So you can see a bunch of coins. There in the back corner is a set of brass knuckles. There are some insignia and some crosses and some dog tags in here. Piece of a cricket. What is really kind of the most moving is that piece right there. That gold ring is the wedding band of Thomas Meehan. And then there in the back is one of his dog tags. All right, moving now into the airborne room, where they have all kinds of crazy things, like the full uniform and kit of John Agnew, or Jack Agnew as his nickname was, from the Filthy 13. All right, well, here is some gear for one of the Pathfinders. These were the first guys in at Normandy to set up beacons and lights to guide the C-47s in that were carrying the paratroopers. You notice this one has like a camo pattern on the uniform, which is very, very rare. And this guy also modified his firearm just a little bit and had one of these knuckle knives ready to go. So here we have a scene of a paratrooper hopping onto the C-47, getting ready to go into combat, kind of copying this picture right here, or using this picture as inspiration. And if you'll look at the Tommy gun in that picture, well, here it is right here. Not a Tommy gun like that one, that Tommy gun. Oh my goodness, guns, guns, guns. Now, this might look like just some run-of-the-mill leather jacket, but it's not just any leather jacket. This is the leather jacket, if you'll notice those 4 stars up there on the shoulder, that belonged to Dwight D. Eisenhower. Holy smokes. Okay, now the story behind these artifacts is really quite tragic. This is the uniform of Lieutenant Colonel Bull Wolverton. And Bull Wolverton got stuck in a tree on D-Day. His parachute got stuck in a tree, and while he was hanging there, Germans did some pretty awful things. They basically were using him for target practice, bayoneted him, obviously killed him, but went beyond that into really just doing a lot of unnecessary damage and desecrating his body. Here are a few more items that are tied to Wolverton. Here is his burial flag. They also have his cap back there. And I'm going to have to adjust my lighting here. But this is really interesting. This is known as a sink cup. So after the war, some guys got a hold of Hermann Goering's silver, and Colonel Sink ended up refashioning it into a paratrooper cup. So it has his name engraved on it, has paratrooper jump wings. Well, obviously Wolverton was not there at the end of the war, so Sink sent this to his widow. What we are looking at right here is some of the gear from Lieutenant Colonel Vandervoort. This is the guy that John Wayne played in the movie The Longest Day. He'd broken his foot whenever he landed, and they don't just have the uniform and helmet and everything like that. They've also got like almost all of his gear over here as well. Crazy. Holy smokes. This is the helmet of the commanding general of the 82nd Airborne, Matthew Ridgway. This, if you don't realize what you're looking at right now, this is probably the ultimate as far as American helmets. Like, it doesn't get any more rare than this right here. This is the helmet that Ridgway wore through World War II, also into the Korean War. They also have a little bit more of his gear here. That is impressive. And if you aren't impressed by just one helmet, well, maybe you'll be impressed by a bunch of helmets. Here's one thing that they're doing at this museum that I really, really appreciate is they're telling a story, and they're kind of walking you through the D-Day operations while showing all of these amazing artifacts. So this is depicting the link up between the 327th Glider Infantry Regiment and the 29th Infantry Division at Carentan. Okay, so keep talking about the rare stuff that they have in this museum. This firearm right here is super rare. This is a German FG-42. This is something that the Fallschirmjäger would have carried, and this particular one has a bit of battle damage there on the back end. Wow. I'm sure a lot of people have heard the famous stories about the leg bags being torn away on the jumps in Normandy. Well, this is a complete grouping from a leg bag that was attached to Raymond, I think you would pronounce the name Aubischer, and he completely lost all of his gear. And the museum here found it, and there it is. Awesome. In any museum that you go to, there's a jaw-dropping moment. So if you go to the Louvre, it's the Mona Lisa. If you come to the D-Day experience, it's got to be this right here. I'm going to go ahead and say I've been in a lot of museums in a lot of different places. I have never seen anything like this. I'm going to go ahead and say that I've never seen anything else that parallels this. Just the level of detail that they have put into this display makes it feel like it's 1944 and you've been dropped right into Carentan in the middle of all of this busyness. Even the building that they have constructed here was modeled after period photos. So the attention to detail here is just insane. All of the uniforms are original. There's no reproductions or fakes in here. This vehicle right here is original. It is just absolutely stunning. Here we have a picture of some guys, or a scene of some guys getting their picture taken with an American flag and also a souvenir from the Germans. You can tell that this is made by people who know and appreciate history. Very, very impressive. Quick addendum, the tank is actually not real, but everything else is. Except for that horse. That horse isn't real either. All right, well, I'm calling it. That right there is the best museum in Europe. I have never, ever seen a collection like that kind of marries artifacts and immersive experiences and information and history and dioramas and everything. That is one of the best, if not the best museum in Europe. So I'm going to go ahead and say, if you come to Normandy, yes, absolutely go to the beaches, go to the landing zones, go to all these places, but definitely come to the Dead Man's Corner Museum and the D-Day experience. You will not be disappointed.